Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to see people still coming in, and we're going to start at the top of the hour. But I thought that we'd let everybody get kind of settled. It's really exciting to see almost 100 people already. So I'm sure we'll have more people coming. And I don't know if you guys know this, we said it, but there's going to be a really special prize today at the end. And so we're glad that you're going to be here for the whole webinar because then you'll be entered into the drawing, not only for today's prize, but the grand prize too at the end of our webinar series, the end of October. So we'll just give everybody another minute. And it's the first day of fall.
Woohoo!
Yeah. It's first day of fall, but it was like 90 today,
Yeah,
so it's
my
hot.
favorite season.
Yeah, I know. I love it too. So, welcome as you start coming in. We're going to get started at the top of the hour. So, it's really exciting to see so many people in the webinar today. I'm sure that people are still filing in, and so we'll welcome them and we'll get started too with our content. Heather and I have a lot to share today, and so we better get started. But we're really excited that you're here as we kick off our new capstone webinar series, Libraries, Tips, Tricks, and Treats. This one is the first webinar, and it's called Getting Started in the Library. We want to also encourage you to ask anything. You can share your questions and your thoughts in the chat. I'm going to ask you all a question in a few minutes that we want you to answer. The webinar is being recording, and we're going to email that out along with a certificate of participation and the slides. So you'll get all of that within the week. And also use the tweet, is that what it's still called? I don't know, the X with Capstone Pub, and also on Instagram. I should say that too. And you can join the conversation or even say that you're here today. And we'll try to get more people at our webinar next week too. So we're really happy you're here. But my name is Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School. I also serve as a Future Ready Librarians Leader and the Capstone Champion, and I am an author for Capstone. You can find me on X and Instagram at Shannon M. Miller, and I blog at The Library Voice. And I'm really excited today to have Heather Fox, very special guest, and also my sister. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you. So I am Heather Fox, and like she said, Shannon's my sister, so this is amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I am a pre-K through fourth grade teacher librarian at two different elementaries, Amana Elementary and Clear Creek Elementary in Iowa. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. This is the bit.ly that you can get to our slides. I'm going to share this at the end as well. And there'll be some things that you might want to take and use for your own, things like choice boards and some other blog posts and different activities that we're going to share. So you might want to jot that down and or scan it with your phone or your device too, and then you'll have that information. But like I said, we're just really happy to have you here. We're going to have two back-to-back webinars, and then in October, we're going to have two more. And so I'm really excited just to kick this off. And today's session is just packed full of practical advice, time-saving strategies, and ideas from Heather and I to refresh our space, to collaborate with teachers, and also set the tone for a wonderful year in your library. But to start, we also want to hear about you. And so in the chat, please drop your name and your location and the grades that you work with, because we would love to see where you're at. It's always a bummer for me that I can't see everybody because I'm talking and I don't want to get distracted, but I'm sure that there's lots of people that I know here. And I love looking back too at the chat afterwards just to see where everybody is. So please introduce yourselves too. As I said earlier, there's going to be one lucky winner that's going to be announced at the end of today's webinar. And then everyone who attends all four of the webinars will be entered to win the special grand prize. And it's a really cool Halloween party pack. And so get ready for that too. And so if you haven't signed up for all four of them, you can still sign up, of course. And we can't wait to see you and to celebrate also the things that you're doing with these prizes. So our agenda for today is we have a little welcome, and that's what we're doing right now. And then we're going to set the tone for our library, freshen up your library space, talk about collaborating with teachers, families, and community, and some practical tips and time savers. We're also going to give you a little challenge at the end. And so we want this to turn into a great experience for everyone and something that you can take away too and use in your own library. So let's get started. Let's start talking about setting the tone for our library.
All right, so the beginning of the year in the library truly matters. It's all about relationships and how the library makes every single person who walks in the space feel. You want them to feel accepted and loved when they're in your space or in your school space. And there's lots of different ways that you could do that. We always need to remember that libraries are for everyone. So every single person, whether it's a teacher, staff, children, of course, should feel welcome when they walk into our spaces. Some of the things, these are photos from my library space, and I have two since I'm at two buildings. But every year I kind of think about what is something that I can do that's a little bit different, just little touches that can make it welcoming and make everyone feel like they're part of the space. So this year I had the idea, I had a lamp that had a boring like white lampshade. And I thought it would be fun to have every one of our students sign the lampshade. So that's a picture of all of my kids at one of my schools. And I love it because the kindergartners' names are really super big. And then, of course, like the students, as they get older, their names are a little bit smaller. But they love, and it's the first thing that you see when you walk into the space. So it's just a little touch that they love seeing that just makes them feel included. Then I also on the wall with all the book characters, lots of book characters that they recognize, and it's colorful, it's fun. And then I love the sign that I got too that says, "I'm so glad you're here." I just want them always to feel like anybody that walks in that this is not my space, like this is our space. Also just welcoming kids back for the new year and just kind of setting the tone like we're all in this together. So one of these displays is at one of my schools and the other is at the other school. And so just something colorful, fun. And then on the one on the right, I'm planning on adding pictures as we go along, or both of them actually, of kids reading in the space again, so they can just see themselves like in the space that they belong in. Again, here's just some cozy on the left. That is a little cozy spot that I have in one of my schools, just making like the rug, making it colorful, making it friendly. I love lamps, like I'm a huge lighting person. So anything to make it cozy where they have lots of cozy spaces to read. And then this is something that I saw this idea of a classroom teacher that did this. So at the end of every year, she had her kids put a little bead with their initials from her class that year in a little frame or in like a little shadow box. And so I came up with the idea this year, every bead tells a story. And so we're not quite finished, but every student is getting to put their first name initial and last name initial, and then choose a little heart to put into the shadow box. And then we're just going to display it all year long. Again, just something to make them feel like they're welcome. Kids want to see themselves in your space. Also, the Stick Together, this is just a collaborative project that we do every year. Like, doesn't matter, we can do it in preschool, they can do it kindergarten all the way up to fourth grade, just something fun that they see that we're working on together throughout the whole school year.
One thing that I did too, well, also Heather, I love all those ideas. I got to do the bead thing. It's so
Yeah,
cute.
so
But one
cute.
thing that we did, one of the teachers asked me if I would help her make some personalized bookmarks for her classroom. And so then I also made them for the library, and you could either like personalize them, you could just put like welcome back friends or leave like a little space. And so in this slide, I actually have it linked that you can just copy them off to really easy and then have these really cute coloring bookmarks. And I have to show you guys this cool new just got that from Demcab, and I absolutely love that. And so it's just fun, a new little bookmark display holder. Another thing that I always think about too is how we welcome our kids back with our book displays. And so I have a lot of pop-up libraries around our school, and so filled the first one with back to school books. And then also in my book hub, I make sure that this is filled too with books about children's names, different, all kinds of different places, different people, different topics, nonfiction and fiction that our kids will love. And with my book hub, I have it out in our hallway now. We used to have it in these little baskets, but we're going through a building project, and so it makes it a little bit easier. But you can find this too and more information about how I do that. I also think too about what we do online. And I love it in Destiny how we can make our carousels like personalized. And so one of my carousels is just Mrs. Miller's top book picks for back to school. And you can have a carousel called anything. You can move them around, you can turn them on and off. And a great way to display just top picks from you, but even books that are being checked out. Another thing that our kids love is just always getting to know the library again. And Capstone has a lot of downloadables. One that is really fun is the library scavenger hunt, and you can find that in the slide. And then also, this is a new one called it's just like Bingo is Sweet for back to school. Great thing just to print off, and you can have it in either English or Spanish too. I did a lot of thinking this summer on things that I could do in our library that were passive programming that are new. And one that I absolutely love that I've wanted to do for a long time is a would you rather or do you like display. And I made these just in Canva. You can click on the slide and you can copy them too or even change them up. And then I have a couple little places in our library where kids put what color they want, if it's red or blue. And then we just count those up and tell the kids at the end of the week. So just really fun to do. The next thing is to cultivate your reading culture from the beginning. And one thing I love for my kids to feel, just like Heather said too, is that not only that we're all welcome, but that everyone is a reader. And it doesn't matter if we're in the library, if they're in their classes, if they're waiting before school, we want them to feel like everyone is a reader. And when our kids come for preschool, we have a preschool within our building. They come when they're 3 and 4 years old, and we start with them checking out books at that age. And it's so fun because we give them a little bag. And when we first start checking books out to the kids at the beginning of the year, I just print off this infographic from Capstone and I put it in their bag because I want them also to make sure that they share that with their families about how important reading is. This was a display kind of like a campaign that I did a few years ago. And this was so fun. And we're doing this again this year with a photo booth. And it was just called I Am a Van Meter Reader. And kicking the year off, just taking pictures of all of our teachers reading, but really instilling in our whole community how important reading is through their classes and through their families and even as individuals. But the I Am a Van Meter Reader was so fun because we not only did pictures of all of our teachers, but we did them with all of our kids, made them into stickers, and put them on their locker. And so this was one thing that our kids, it was so fun to hear them throughout the year. And as we get ready and kind of mix it up for what we're going to do, One thing that is really fun that Capstone also had in their little downloadables, I forgot about this one, and it's just a little caught reading one. And I put it into Canva, and then I can just pop my kids' pictures in there too. I also have a area, and so does my library assistant Natasha in our library, where we have our top book picks. And this is really simple, just made a little sign in Canva using a Bitmoji, and then we use a Google slide. Each of us pick 5 books each month and copy them off and put them by our book picks. But it's also great not only to put those up in the library, but to share this presentation with our teachers and our kids so they can see those books throughout the year. We've done different things too with Bitmojis, like made posters of look what I'm reading. We've had it where teachers can like move around like what books they have and switch those out. So just lots of ways to celebrate reading with our teachers and our staff too throughout the year.
Also like creating, I love to create displays that are eye-catching and interactive. And this was one I did a couple years ago with I Spy books. And all of the little trinkets, I did this fairly inexpensively. I got a lot of the stuff, actually a lot of the stuff I had, and a lot of the stuff I got from Temu, which is very cheap, but just something fun. This was in the hallway, like on the way down to our library, just something to get them excited about like the I Spy books, something colorful, fun, and just again, promoting those books in our library.
So cute, Heather.
Thank you. One thing that I did, well, I started this last year. I saw all sorts of people like on Instagram doing like books that we've read. So we have a books that we've read chart I have it in both of my libraries. And um, I might not read the same books with all of the students, but any book that I read pre-K through fourth, I make a copy of the cover and we add it to our chart. So by the end of the year, it'll be filled. So it's just fun to, and they see the books and they get excited, like to see how many that we've read. So that's been really fun just to keep a little tally and a little picture of all the things that we've read throughout the year. Um, Also author visits. This is Ruth Spiro. She did an author visit actually at Shannon's at Van Meter, and then she also did one at our school, at my school. So just keeping in mind, like if you could bring in authors like in person is amazing. Like to connect kids with authors, like real life authors in person is awesome. But you can also do them virtually as well. So this was Peter Reynolds for Dot Day. And then Story Voice has amazing, so Story Voice through Scholastic, they have author presentations, author and illustrator presentations every Friday that are free. And these are amazing too. If you can't make it work, like when you're with the kids in the library, share it with your teachers. And they're amazing. Like the authors and illustrators are awesome, and they're also recorded. So if you can't catch it live, you can catch the recording. So there's so many different like opportunities to try to connect like kids with actual authors.
The next thing is to think about how to freshen up your library. And I have been thinking a lot about libraries the last year or so because we're going through this huge addition onto our school, and a library is going to be included. And so when I go to schools and libraries to consult or to speak, I always am looking and taking pictures. And this one really stood out. This is my friend Paige's library at Franklin Square in Long Island. And they just redid all of their libraries, and she did just an amazing job putting it together and making it just such a great space that she truly like freshened up her library in so many different ways. And so when I think about what we're doing at Van Meter and what our library is going to look like next year, it's just dirt and some walls right now. It's going to be just really neat to think about that space that we have. But right now, as we're in a smaller space and sharing it with STEM, we're still making it the heart of our school. And we're trying to think all the time about ways to make this a space for our kids to love to come to read and to learn and to create together. One thing that I think about a lot is when my teachers walk in too, and I always make a space for them that they also feel like they are welcome. And this is kind of my little collaboration space for our teachers, and having like a coffee pot and some candy and a place that they can come and get some things. I love finding ways to mix up how we're doing our shelving. If it is front facing or new shelves or maybe displays. And one thing that we did a lot of the last few years is book bins, making it very simple and things that we already had around, and using like a color printer and a laminator and really simple baskets has really made a difference for our reader and how they find things. We also have very limited space right now on where we make our displays. And so we have been creative in just using like the bottom of shelves or putting things like the end of bookshelves that we can make really cool displays. But these are two that we have up right now. And one thing that I love to do when I'm making a display is even thinking about how I'm tying it back into things that we have online. If it's ebooks, if it's PebbleGo, if it's another like database or tool that we're using, and then just putting it together and making it available for our kids, not just in the library, but even adding it like to our Google Classroom.
This is my space so last year I got I traveled between two, and last year was the first time that I added the second library. And so just trying to think of ways to make the space inviting without a big budget. Um, because that can be challenging, and just also trying to think of little things that I can do each year. Like you can't obviously change everything all at once. But this is a space that I'm currently working on. And then um, saw an idea on Instagram to make paper lanterns. So we're kind of doing these for dot days, but I love like getting my students involved in freshening up the space. So we started these last week, and these are third graders. And then once we get them finished, they'll hang from the ceiling in that little corner that we're working on. And they are having a great time. I also thought on the left, these were the end cap shelf posters for the books, and I wanted to do something freshened up for this year, but again, like you're limited on time, so I thought that's something that I can do, one thing that I can do this year. And I just made these in Canva, and so I changed all those out for this year. So anything that you can do to tweak it just to little things each year make a big difference.
Yeah. I love that. They're so cute. Also thinking too about how it's not just about the books in our library, but even adding things to freshen up spaces. If it's a new 3D printer, or we added our little chomp saw workshop, and we got these from Stimfinity at the end of the year, and they are amazing. If you guys haven't seen these, they cut paper and all kinds of different things. And so we set this up, and kids get so excited when they see them, and the teachers do too. So thinking about, how you bring creativity into your library by freshening up your space in different ways.
And I can't wait to get a chomp saw. I'm so excited about that.
Cool.
Another thing we've done in the past, we've done a lot of pixel art, like with stick together, but also I've had kids make their own pixel art. So this year I'm working on putting together a pixel art cart where students will be able to like scan the QR code, they'll create their art. I'll print it, and then just something that is more of like a center that is kind of something that they can do independently. So I'm really excited to get this up and running this year. And then this is just a picture of all the different, some of the different manipulatives that I have in one of my spaces. Again, just thinking like about building and all the different ways that that kids will just love to be in your space.
The next thing is collaborating with teachers and community. And I always love to throw in what we do as future ready librarians. And collaboration is a really important part of that, how we're building instructional partnerships, how we're empowering our kids as creators, how we're collaborating with our community people. And one thing that is nice to do at the beginning of the year is make sure you hang it up. Hang up the poster of what we do as Future Ready Librarians. Grab the infographic that Capstone has created, The Power of the School Librarian. I love sharing this for School Library Week too, but hang those up or share them with your administrators and your teachers so you make sure that you're celebrating those things. Also, make sure that every year you tell your teachers what you can do. And I've done all kinds of things throughout the year, from making this campaign where it was all focused around a movie and giving them a poster and some candy and a little ticket on what we could do to help.
This was mine that I did a couple years ago. This was our AES library takeout menu. And again, I just gave this at the beginning of the year because you just want your teachers to know what kinds of like things that you can offer that you can help them with. Because you always want to make yourself very approachable so that they know you're there for to be a resource for them and for their students, for our students.
And one thing that is really fun this year to think about is a little campaign that we have with this building project going on. I thought about this summer, like, what could I do just that to know that we're all together? And so we made bracelets. My associate's daughters actually put most of these together and we gave them to all the teachers, made a little note, and then we made a library and technology bingo card. And this is something that the teachers will get a copy of it each month, and it's for the teachers and the kids together to do these activities. Maybe it's reading or inviting me to come to the library to do a lesson with them, or coming to their classroom, maybe to collaborate with the teachers. And so we have a bulletin board that then the teachers, once they get a bingo, can add a book or a little computer, and just making it something that we know that we're in this together this year. One of my favorite ways to connect with my teachers and to collaborate is in our Google Classroom. And this might sound crazy, and I thought I was a little nuts when I first did this, but I ask all the teachers to add me as a co-teacher to their Google Classroom. The nice thing about that, and I show this in the little screenshot of their email, is I can just look really fast and see what they're doing in their classroom. I don't even have to open it up, and it gives me ideas on how I can collaborate with our teachers. We also have already opened up, even though it's only the first month of school, some of our pop-up book club libraries. And this is so fun because a great way to support our teachers with their reading curriculum and their kids with their reading groups, but putting together and helping them with their classroom libraries and even our pop-up libraries in the hallways and even online too. I'm sure you guys have heard of Novel Effect, and we love Novel Effect at Van Meter. And so every month we make a little poster, we send it out, a great way too to support reading aloud to our kids. And it goes along with our book hub too, just to get more books into the hands of our kids in their classroom. So that's really important to us.
And then as far as collaborating with teachers, this is an activity that I've done for many, many years with our kindergarten teachers, and it's just super simple, but I read quick as a cricket. And then the kids tell me like an animal that they like. I take the photos and put these posters together, and then the teachers put them on their lockers. So I think anything that you can do like that, and we do it every year, so it's just like a fun connection that I have with the kindergarten teachers, and something that's pretty simple, but once you establish something like that, it's easy to do like year after year.
When we're talking too about our community partnerships, don't forget the partnerships you have with your public librarian. And we have been doing a lot of campaigns with our public librarian, Jonatha, for the last few years since she started at Van Meter. And one of them is, again, going off of that Van Meter reader campaign, but even making stickers and bookmarks of how we collaborate together and how our resources that we can use, things from our public library too. So that is really important for our community. We have outside our door just a little simple, bulletin board, and that's how we share the things that are happening. But it does make a difference, and it means a lot to our families and our community. And then thinking too about our teachers, when we think about that collaboration, not just what we do when we collaborate with them in the classroom, but I love to share books that I have or that I've read. I get a lot of like requests like every week, like, what are you reading? What do you love? And so I have a little sharing library too in our library where teachers can just get a book and read it and take it home too. The last thing are just to share some practical tips and time savers. And if you follow me or my blog, you know that I love to share choice boards. And this has something that I started actually during the pandemic, and they continue. Our kids and our teachers just love them. But one of my biggest tips is to share things with your teachers that they can use within their classrooms and their curriculum, or even kids can do it at home. This is something too that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can make a copy and you can just make changes and share it. And then to go along with all our books that we share in our pop-up libraries, I also make a virtual library that shows off some of the great books that we have. And I do this each month. I love doing this because it's a great way to not only to give them a little collection of books for the month, or maybe it's like a special event or something, but it's also a great way for them to read more books and to highlight these things, these ebooks that we have. And the same with our Pebble Go articles. This idea came from a teacher a few years ago. And I make one for each season, but even special holidays and things, and just put it into a choice board. And then I can share this with my teachers and with my students. And again, you can find the link in the slide and just make a copy. But when we go back to school, another thing that I'm always thinking about is like how I'm getting these resources into the kids' hands. And I work in a school with preschool to 12th grade. And so I have a big age span and lots of kids that I have to get these resources to. And so I do just a little like digital poster each year, put all of our resources, and I link all these resources and make it into a poster that they hang in their classroom. And also I put it online and we bookmark that on their Chromebooks or their MacBooks. And so I use Book Creator just to put this together. You can hyperlink like any of the pictures, things that you want to put in here. And I put a copy in here if you want to make a copy and add your own resources. And then I take that, make it into a bookmark so they have the link, or they could scan a QR code and they can even send that home too. So really easy way just to get that library like with them wherever they are, and they're able to use those resources so easy. I also use Symbaloo, and that's something that you can find like even linked in the different things that we do, if it's a choice board or if it's this poster and choice board that we make. But I love it because it's a great bookmarking site and something then that I can share with my teachers and also with my students and my families too. So there are so many things that you can do to get started in the library, but the most important thing is to be there for your kids and your community. And we all know that we get really busy and that there are so many things that we have to do. And I'm sure that if you're watching, you've written down ideas and things that you want to do too. But remember, the most important thing is just to be there for your kids and your community. And one of our best tips is to find yourself a library bestie. And I'm lucky because my sister's a librarian and my best friend. And so we share and we talk about things all the time. We create things, we share them, we collaborate. But find someone in your school or someone in your network or someone like in the Future Ready Librarian Facebook group, and just have that person be somebody that you can collaborate with too, because it really does make a difference each and every day. So, as we wrap up today, we want to challenge you to try one new thing this week. And at our webinar on September 29th, next week, everyone's going to have a chance to celebrate and share their tip or trick. That's going to be our opening question and thing that we have to do since this is a series of webinars. But I already know a couple things I want to try from ideas that Heather did, but we can't wait to see what you do. And remember, even if you just do one thing, that's one thing that is going to make a difference for your kids. And so we can't wait to see what you're going to do in your library this year too. We can't wait to see. I'm going to put the QR code up here and the bit.ly one more time. I know that there was a couple questions, so I think that our friends at Capstone are going to hop on to ask those quick.
And if I can just add something that Shannon said too, um, it's easy to get overwhelmed, but Shannon has always told me, like just choose one thing to start with. Like you can't do everything all at once, obviously. So try not to get overwhelmed with doing everything. Just choose one thing that you could be really good at, or one teacher to collaborate with and start small. And then you can just build from there. So that's kind of my thing that I always try to keep in mind because every year I think, I want to do this and this and this, and it does get overwhelming. But just, focus on what you can do, and anything that you can do makes a big difference. So it's kind of what I always keep in the back of my head that Shannon has taught me.
Thanks, Heather. Yeah,
Yes.
it does. It gets overwhelming, but that's a good way to think about it. And it really does help. So,
Great. Well, if you're ready for some questions, I've just pulled a
yeah,
few from the chat here. And maybe the answer is that we can talk about them in more detail at the upcoming webinars. The first thing that came up was the bookmark display. The sound cut out just for a moment there. Where did you get that bookmark display from the beginning of the
I
webinar?
got it at from Demco.
From Demco. Great. Thank
Yep.
you. We
Hmm.
had quite a few questions all along the lines of budget and funding, whether it's for author visits at your school or some of these creative initiatives. Will there be time in the upcoming webinars to talk about how to secure funding and stretch your budget in the library?
Yeah, sure. That would be a great thing to talk about actually in the next webinar. And so I'll make sure to add that because I have some ideas and I did a lot of that today actually in the library. And so I think that will be a great conversation for next week. I'm glad that we added that.
Perfect. And then the last one, just because of time, you shared about collaborating with teachers via Google Classroom. Are there other ways that you share your amazing initiatives with teachers in email or newsletters, or do you ever get
Yep.
time at staff meeting?
Yeah, definitely emails. I send a few emails a week and I do not worry about it. Sometimes I might have a teacher say, like, oh, you just sent us an email, like you sent us one the other day, and you just have to like let that go because you're going to have some teachers that read them all the time and others that don't, and that's okay. Might have them, the other ones maybe see a newsletter that you have hanging up in the bathroom or that you've put in their box. And so anything that you can to get them. And the best thing, honestly, is to find them in the hallway. I pop into teachers' rooms all the time. I talk to them in the hallway. I see people in the parking lot. I always have my phone and I love to text with them because texting is so great for little ideas. But anything you can do, just meet them where they are. And it's not like a one size fits all. It's not like everybody is going to read your emails. Everybody's not going to read your newsletter, but meet your teachers where they are. That's my best advice.
I think too, like Shannon said, don't take it personally if someone doesn't respond like how you think they might. Like
Yeah.
it's teachers are so busy, and as long as you're putting things out there and having those conversations, like whenever you can squeeze them in, I think is just anything you can do like that is great.
Are
Well,
those
perfect.
are those all the questions, Alex?
Yes, the last one was just about for those who were late, is there going to be a recording sent out? And there will be before the end of the week. And we hope to see you all next time.
Yeah, so I want to just share what our webinars, and I'm going to share the winner at the end here of today. The next one is next week on the 29th. I can't wait because my good friend Tim Jones is going to join me for advocating for your library. So you can register if you haven't yet. And then in October, we have session 3, collection development for impact with Jamie Garcia. and one of her librarian friends, Ginny. I can't wait for that one. And then I have my good friend Amanda joining me for session 4, running a library kids love. And so it's going to be fun. You can register too at the link below. And the giveaway winner for today is Kristen Desborough, I think is how you say it. Desbouroughh. So congrats, Kristen. And thank you all for joining us. We can't wait to see you next week. And thank you, Heather, for joining me too.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.